it's been a while, folks. We are on the 48 Special. Welcome back, Harley. Pretty stoked to ride this bike for more the reasons than I haven't been on a Harley in a while. Partially because I never rode a 48 when I had the chance. I should say when I used to ride Harleys, and I was always intrigued. Checking out friction zone here. Yeah, right about in the middle. Very nice. Very nice. I like the riding position here of your hands. I like that. Pretty sure this is a 1200cc rubber mounted Evo engine, air cooled, on this 48 Special. This ride height is super low, so as you can see, I'm flat footing it just nice and easy here on this bike, and I'm 5'6", and I have about a 30-inch inseam, and it's just no problem at all flat footing this bike. We've got ABS blinking here, which is cool. I don't know when Harley decided to start offering ABS as an option on the Sportster, so that's rad. What's also rad is that the one that I'm test riding has ABS. So here we go. Now, in past years, I guess, just starting to talk about why I never rode a 48, and maybe why it wasn't at the top of my list of Harleys that I wanted to ride. One of them was kind of petty, and it was the spoked wheels. I'm not a big fan of the spoked wheels, and you know, anytime where you're gonna have to just pump more money into a bike right off the bat because you don't like something about it, you know, it just sours me to a bike. The other thing is the tiny little peanut 2.1 gallon tank, and that was probably the biggest thing about this bike, was the tiny little tank. And you know, I've heard lots of people say, well, you know what, you're still going to get about 85, 90 miles out of it, but you know, I can ride like 150 miles on my KTM. And that's a considerable amount more. Nice smooth shifting on this bike. Now, one of the differences between the 48 Special and the Iron 1200, I mean, they're essentially the same bike. And besides the difference between the 2.1 gallon tank and the 3.3 gallon tank, is that you've got forward controls on this 48. And really, what to me this is feeling like, it's kind of like a mini Street Bob, because you've got the mini ape hangers here in front, and you've got the forward controls, and obviously here, because it's a Sportster, the ride here is a little bit more bumpy than a plush Softail Street Bob, but not too bad so far. And I got that rumble that I'll say that I miss it from riding a Harley. Real easy roll on the throttle there. Now I gotta be careful when we turn here, because the lean angle on this bike is only like 27 degrees on both sides, so I don't want to hit any scrapage here, so we'll be careful as we turn. And one of the other big differences between the 1200 Iron and the Special 48 Special is the size of the front tire. They both have the same size 150 rear tire, but the front tire on this bike is a 130, and on the Iron 1200 it's just a 100. So I do, and I have always liked that about the 48, is those big tires on the front and the back. It's just kind of unique, kind of fun. The exhaust is really quiet on this bike, and you know, it's hard for me to compare, I guess, right now, because you know, I'm riding around with my works competition exhaust on my KTM, and it's really loud, and it's been a while since I've been on a Harley, so it just sounds quiet to me. last time I rode a cruiser was an Indian, and even their exhausts were louder than this. I guess this sounds kind of like the when I rode the Springfield, I think was a little bit quiet.
Flashback.
Okay, with that turn, no problem. I love the self-canceling turn signals here. Always loved that about my Harley. Let's see if we scrape here. Nope, no scrapage. That was okay. That was a nice slow turn. So very comfortable riding position here. Harley since 2018 switched over to this like gel saddle. So yeah, that was nice of them. So it's really cushy. It would be interesting to see how it feels after a long ride, but it feels really nice. And obviously on the 48 and on the Iron, you get a solo saddle, and you'd have to go to something aftermarket or something else Harley makes to get your passenger saddle. But yeah, this is really comfortable. And we'll see here when we open it up a little bit if I feel like I might slide back in this seat. But so far, it's holding me in place pretty well. The 60 miles an hour here feels pretty smooth. I don't know what RPM range, obviously, because we've got a real simple analog speedometer here with not a lot of other details. Let's see if we scroll through if we can get anything else here. Oh, here we got gear and RPM. Okay, so just like on my Fat Bob there on the digital end, we got the RPM. So if you're not familiar with Harley-Davidson cruisers, you've got turn signals here both on the left and the right, not just on one side. They're self-canceling, which is awesome. And you got your hazards and your ignition, as well as your power on and off on the right, and on the left, trip, horn, and your low beams and high beams controls. Very simple, but after riding Harley for many years, it's nice. I like their simplistic controls. There's no guessing when you get on a new Harley. It's all pretty much the same, unless you're riding one of the Street Series bikes, which then it's more like a standard motorcycle when you're riding one of those. But yeah, you know, this whole cruiser riding here, it's nice. You know, I kind of forgot how it was to just kind of like lay back and ride, and it's nice. I don't like being the tail end here because I don't feel like I can really open it up. There we go. There we go. That's nice. Okay, we're in third gear. Hey, that's impressive. I don't know what speed we got up to there, maybe 60 in third gear. Yeah, this is much more easy it's much easier to roll on the throttle and get a lot of power out of this bike than it was on the 883, that's for sure. I can definitely vouch for that on this ride. It's impressive. And you know, having these fatter tires, because I know that the wheels are smaller on this bike, having the fatter tires, I can kind of feel that it's absorbing the bumps in the road a little bit better than, oh man, that was the slowest turn of all time. Yeah, but it's definitely a comfortable ride. I can feel the seat working, I can feel the rear suspension working. I don't feel a lot of jar in the hands, but then again, on a Harley, you know, you're not leaning on your hands to feel all those bumps in the front suspension. So no, it's just a real comfortable ride. I'm really impressed. Like I said, look, we're at 70 miles an hour in third gear, and there we're at 65. We're at about 3,500 RPM. Yeah, this is really nice. Yeah, and like I was saying, this does feel very reminiscent of the Street Bob, but it's a little more manageable, you know, because it weighs considerably less. I think this bike weighs in in running order at about 565 to 564 pounds. And it's very easy to flick this bike around. You know, it's not gonna, obviously it's not gonna weigh as little as a sportier bike, because, you know, Harley-Davidson's got all these parts on them that makes it heavier. They're all metal. There's a lot of plastic on sport bikes, so this bike will never feel as nimble as a sport bike. And obviously you're leaning back here with your hands up and your feet in the front, so this is very comfortable. I could ride like this for hours. It's a windy day. I can't tell if we're riding with the wind or against it. Yeah, see, we're in 4th gear and hitting 80 miles an hour, under 4,000 RPM, and this bike still feels like I could have gone, I could have shifted even a little later. I'm super impressed, because one of the big things about me was with the Sportsters was they were still only 5 speeds, and or 5 gears, and when they upped it to 1200 cc's on these on the special and on the 1200 special and the 48, I was kind of like, well, if you're gonna give us 1200 cc's, give us another gear. And I just I guess it kind of turned me off without even trying it, which I guess is my bad, right? I should have just tried it out, see how it felt, but I didn't. And now I won't say that I regret not trying it out, but it's definitely a lot nicer to ride. The bike doesn't feel like it's working super hard to in the higher speeds and in the higher RPM. And that was the thing that worried me on the not worried me, but when I had my 883, you know, when you're in the higher RPM, man, we're taking these turns so slow. It's for the best, I guess, but I really want to get an idea of how this bike feels at a higher speed in the turn, especially with only having a 27 degrees of lean angle. All right. Yeah, see, I mean, these are pretty smooth roads here. Not a whole lot of bumps, but even when we are hitting bumps, this bike's taking it really well. See, here's another tight turn, so we're all gonna slow down. It's super slow. No, but I do like the aesthetic on this bike. You know, this is all blacked out. There's a little more chrome, I think, on the iron especially. And then if you're just gonna get a standard Sportster, but I'm a blacked out kind of guy. Got a little close to the edge there. I was busy watching my friend up here in front of me, who's really taking these slow. But I know he's going from a sport bike, and he doesn't ride a cruiser, and I don't know if he's ever ridden a cruiser, but yeah, it can be a whole different experience here when you're riding a cruiser coming from a sport bike or a standard bike. Let's see if we can. Yeah, see, he's really nervous there on the lean angle. But I leaned over pretty far on that one, and I did not drag at all. And you know that it's a huge difference coming back from a sport bike and going to a Harley. You know, especially when you're not talking about one of the big 107s or the 114 Milwaukee 8 engines. Is that this is a really approachable bike. Yeah, see, when it gets up to 80 miles an hour, you forget how much that wind is fighting against you when you ride a Harley. And you're sitting upright, and your legs are up, catching all this wind. That was a little much, but we were still only in 4th gear, and I still felt like this bike could have gone a little bit further. I mean, we're at 4,000 RPM. Yeah, no, this bike can handle it. I am impressed. I wish it hadn't taken me so long to get on one of these. And to be totally frank with you, we've only been riding for about like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I can start to feel the seat here. Maybe we're because of the gel, I'm sinking towards the bottom or the pan of the seat. and it's starting to not feel as comfortable. So I can only imagine after an hour how that's going to feel on my rear end. But that's just something to think about. Obviously, if you're riding a Sportster, you're not going to be touring. But that's one of the things about Sportsters, right? It's a great starter bike, I think. Whether you're going to get an 883 or a 1200, I would venture to say if you're going to get a Sportster as your starter bike, as your first bike, go ahead and get the 1200. The power is so linear on a Harley that it's just not something you're going to worry about as far as, you know, getting jerked off the bike. Like, here we go. I'm giving it all she's got here on this off the line there, and I don't feel like I'm sliding back at all in this seat, and I don't feel like I'm going to get pulled off the bike. And even for a bike where I'm sitting upright a lot and, you know, kind of not leaning back, but I'm sitting upright with my feet up, and I didn't feel like I was going to get jerked off the back of this bike. No, it feels very confident. Like I was saying, Sportsters are a great starter bike, not just because they're very approachable as far as power goes, and as far as torque and handling goes. It's a very good starter bike. Oh, see, that handled that big bump really well. But you can customize the crap out of these bikes. I mean, you can make this bike completely your own. People see people doing custom paint jobs on their tanks, and you know, all these parts that are offered by Harley. It's going to be cheaper to customize one of these than it is going to be a soft tail. So there's that to consider too. You know, you're going to spend less on this bike. This bike starts at just over 10 grand. Excuse me, this bike starts at just over 11 grand. If you're going to get the Iron 1200, you're looking at a cheaper bike. I'm not sure why, because the Iron 1200, really, besides the things that I had mentioned, is almost an identical bike. So if keep that in mind when you're thinking about buying an Iron 1200 or the 48 Special, that you're looking at pretty much the same bike. So look at whether or not you're going to want to get the bigger gas tank, the mid controls instead of the forward controls, and those big fat tires on here. Sorry, the big fat front tire, because the rear tire is the same. But to consider that when you're buying this bike, you know, this is going to fit pretty much anybody. Unless you're really tall, then it's going to feel small on you. But yeah, I think probably if you're taller and you still want an Iron, or excuse me, you still want a Sportster, go for the 48, because the 48 has the forward controls. You get to stretch your legs out a little bit more, and yeah, it definitely will be more suited for a taller person. And definitely get the Special or the 1200 Iron, because you got these mini ape hangers, which for if you got longer arms, I think you're probably going to want these handlebars as opposed to you know, a flatter handlebar where you're gonna have to lean forward a little bit. But this has been a pretty successful test ride. I wasn't too nervous about most of the riders here in this group. I don't like getting stuck in the back because of being a more experienced rider. It makes it for a more boring ride. And not that you can really get on it and really mess around on these bikes on demo rides, because I like to ride smart, especially when you're in a group of people you don't know. But yeah, this has been a blast. And again, this is my first time on a 48. So yeah, this has been this bike definitely will get my endorsement, because this has just been a really fun ride. Here's another thing. You know, I'm not a big guy, but I can see where this might get annoying, having this big air cleaner here on the side. I can feel my leg bumping up against it. I don't know. It's not, when you're just riding, it's not bumping up against it, but I noticed there when I stopped, my knee hit it. Anyway, just something to think about. Everybody's different. Everyone's body shape is different. That's why I always say when I do these test ride videos, you got to get out there and ride that bike yourself. If you're considering that bike, and if you're considering the bike that I'm riding right now, you know, you can definitely take my test ride and what I'm saying about the bike as a guide, but then you got to get out there and experience it for yourself, because no amount of videos that you can watch are going to replace the experience of getting out there and riding these motorcycles. Coming to the end here, but guys, the 48 Special, big thumbs up from that one guy. And big shout out to Iron Steed, Harley-Davidson in Vacaville for bringing the demo truck out and letting us get out here on some fun test rides. Always nice to get out here. It's I love Vacaville. It's a beautiful city. All right, guys, we're back here at the dealer. This is all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this test ride. If you have, make sure you leave a thumbs up down there, which is the like button, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Guys, if you're out there riding, be safe. And if you're not riding, get riding. I'm that one guy, and I am out.